The optional Lagom Mini is a single dose, low retention 48ml conical grinder for both espresso and filter coffee. Now the name Mini really does suit this grinder because it really is tiny. Hi, I'm Peter from Coffee Parts and let's look at the Lagom Mini. Now this grinder is not new to the market, yet when we reviewed the Varia VS3 the other day, we had comments asking us not only to look at the Lagom Mini, but to compare it to the VS3. So here it is. In many ways, this grinder reminds me of a hand grinder that's motorized and could have been designed by Apple. It really does have this kind of look. The Lagom Mini comes with an option of two different Burr sets, both 48ml conical designed in-house by Option O. You got the Obsidian Burr, which is a more all-round Burr set to deliver both espresso and filter, and it does produce a little bit more fines due to the coating. And you got the Moonshine Burr set. Moonshine because they reflect light, because they're an uncoated burr, and this burr is predominantly focused on filter, producing less fines, but can also do espresso. The Moonshine burrs will take a little bit longer to grind, and then the burrs in this grinder. For espresso, 18 grams will take about a minute to grind, and for filter coffee, running 20 grams will take 15 to 30 seconds in a medium to fine grind setting. And dialing in is super easy, effectively moving the hopper, which holds 20 to 25 grams and has a magnetic lid. Now, this hopper has markings on the outside, so you can clearly see where you are at all times. Not only does it have a magnetic lid on the hopper, but it also has a magnetic dosing cup, which is super neat when it comes back in, although it does sit very close to the exit chute, so it can be a little bit difficult to get in and out, but it does mean you're not going to get any mess on the bench. And the motor runs at a deliberately slow 200 RPMs. There's such little retention that you really don't need to purge between grind adjustments. When dialing in, the grinder has a marking of 0, and we found that the ideal settings for us for espresso was between 0.5 and 0.9. So counting these as 1, moving it to 5 here, all the way up to 0.9 for espresso, and for filter 1.1 to 1.4 of the rotations. And it was really easy to move from one to the other and back because it doesn't have retention. For espresso, this grinder with the Moonshine burrs had nice clarity and it had really low fines. Being conical, it had really nice aspects of complexity and sweetness as well. And for filter coffee, with this burr set, this grinder really does remind me of the Commandant with its low level of fines, and that's where this grinder really shines. Now for some negatives on this grinder. In the early editions, there was an issue that on lighter roast grinds, which have a higher density and when grinding fine, was quite difficult and the motor would stall. It turns out it wasn't the motor that was stalling, but it came down to the power supply. And Option O have rectified this, improved the power supply, and this is no longer an issue. We have on this grinder tried to push it to a very fine grind on a lighter grind, and we found that it powered through it. Now talking about power supply, the power supply is on the power point. It reminds me of a laptop's power supply. And depending on your setup, where you're putting it at home or your coffee bar and where that power point is, it might not be visually appealing, or at least not for me anyway. In terms of visual appeal, although these grinders are beautiful and in many ways remind me of an Apple product, next to some machines like a Rocket Giotto or those Chrome machines, I don't feel like the look always suits. When it comes to a filter coffee setup, next to scales, a Kaya Time or whatever it might be, it really does look beautiful. So it really depends on your fit out, but looks really are subjective. And there is a duty cycle. Effectively, you shouldn't be doing more than 4 espresso shots within a 10-minute period, or effectively almost a 1-to-1 cycle. So grind for a minute, let it rest for a minute, grind for a minute, etc. These grinders really are designed to really be only making 3 to 5 coffees a day. And being so light and small, when you do turn them on or move your grind adjustment, they do move around the bench a little bit. But for this grinder, it doesn't actually bug me at all because it almost feels like it's just the nature of it. So who is this grinder for? I see this grinder as an entry-level grinder for someone who wants to do both espresso and filter, doesn't have much bench space, or needs a grinder that can be both used at home and somewhat portable. I also see this grinder for someone who has already their espresso grinder and wants a secondary grinder, more focused on doing filter coffee. Doesn't take up much room, and a lot of the issues of having two grinders at home sometimes is bench space. So you can have your main grinder for espresso, think Mini E or something bigger like that, and you can have this grinder by its side for your filter coffee, or to say other espressos like a decaf or a single origin. And that's where I feel like it fits in to the landscape. So to sum it up, the Lagom Mini really did produce fantastic, delicious coffee, especially for its price. In this spec, with the Moonshine Burrs, it really is focused on filter that can still produce espresso, and on filter is really where it shined. I see it compared to the Vari VS3, because in many ways they're similar, especially on price point. But you can also compare it to the Niche Zero, although that grinder is quite a lot more expensive. Similarities are the conical burrs, single dose, low retention. But in saying that, the Niche has a lot larger burrs and a lot more fines. For me, this unit for its price point really is awesome. But I'd like to know, what are your thoughts? Where does the Lagom Mini fit in the coffee grinder landscape? Are you a fan of it? Are you a fan of its size? Would you prefer to spend a little bit more and go for a bigger grinder? What are you using this grinder for? Are you using it as a secondary or your prime grinder? Let me know in the comments below. And like always, if these videos brought you value, please hit that thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you and see you on the next video.